Hey guys, MoiDawg here, and today wraps up the 8th playtest for the Infantry Combat Overhaul in Squad. And you know what? I'm gonna call it. This is gonna be the last one. It's gotta be the last playtest, and I'm guessing this update will be pushed to live game within the next few weeks. Am I crazy? Maybe, but not only did we get a chance to play every single faction, kit, and weapon in the game this time around, but in my experience, it was not only a pretty bug-free playtest, but it also had really good performance and optimization. Additionally, the devs have made it so that every single weapon is actually now broken up into a weapon class, which gives them certain handling, recoil, and stability stats. For example, long rifles like the M16 or C7 will actually have different handling and recoil compared to shorter barreled rifles like the M4 or those in the AK families. And both of these types of weapons will be completely different from the Chinese, British, or Australian bullpups. For the first time in 2 months, I'm happy to say that if the update was pushed today, I think we'd be in a good spot. After talking with the devs about these weapon classes and then testing them all out for myself, I don't see a reason that we really should be waiting anymore. So in this video, we're going to talk about the latest playtest. We're going to go over all these new weapon classes so you know how to use them, and then I'm going to share my final thoughts on the Infantry Combat Overhaul and what it means for Squad. Did you know that one man every hour, every day is diagnosed with testicular cancer? And testicular cancer is the most common form of cancer in men between the ages of 15 and 35. Well, Manscaped has partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to bring back their special edition TCS Lawnmower 4.0. It's that same high quality Manscaped trimmer that helps you get that close shave in your most delicate of places. You know, your ball area. The TCS Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof and cordless, allowing for shaving even in the shower and making cleanup a breeze. And it's got a high-powered spotlight included so you don't get lost down there. There are only 15,000 of these units available, so if you want to get it, you gotta get it before they're gone. Once they're gone, it's gone for good. And you can also save money on your order by using code MOiDawg to get 20% off and free shipping. And if you guys know me, I just recently recovered from skin cancer myself, so when it comes to spreading awareness for the most common cause of cancer in men my age, I am 1,000,000% on board. If you want to learn more about screening yourself for testicular cancer or even donating to the Testicular Cancer Society, the links are down in the description below. And if you would like to order that TCS limited edition, remember only 15,000 units available, do use code MOiDawg at checkout. Thanks again for Manscaped for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get on with it. Alright, so first off in this video, you're going to see some B-roll from both the latest playtest, which just finished today, as well as the 7th playtest, which was the one before this. Now, the main differences between the two is that the older playtest had an idle weapon bug where you can see this holding animation is just kinda glitching out. It's a bit distracting, but apart from this and a few optimization and FPS issues that were fixed in the latest test, as well as some balancing things that I'll talk about later on, there's not much of a difference visually from what you're seeing between playtest 7 and playtest 8. This is also part of the reason why I believe that the Squad devs are going to be pushing this to the live game so soon. This test that we just finished today was almost like for like to last week's. That's a good thing, and that means the devs have the game where they want it to be, and they're liking the gameplay that's coming from it. Being suppressed is disorienting, and it prevents you from moving or peeking most of the time, and mortars and vehicle rounds are much more effective than they are in the current game of Squad. But if you were worried that you could no longer push and be effective as a solo player because it's all just Bush Wookie gameplay, that's not true. This isn't a Bush Wookie update. Yes, it's obviously going to help people that just lay in the bush and try to suppress, but for example, in this round, I was an MEA rifleman, and as MEA, not only do your rifles do more suppression, but you now also get an extra grenade. So a few blind fires keeping the enemy's heads down, and then grenade tosses suppressing them further could take away an entire defensive position and then allow me to push up. A lot of people were worried that suppression was going to turn Squad into a camper fest. But if you know how suppression is actually going to affect other players, you can still be really aggressive with it. Personally, I think the devs have created a nice balance between encouraging team play and support, as well as still letting experienced players try and frag out and pull off some cool flanks, even solo. It really is the best of both worlds, and I think the majority of players will enjoy it. Alright, now with the suppression out of the way, let's talk about the weapons. Since this was now the second second time in game that we've been able to use every single weapon in the playtest. Everything in Squad now is going to be classified into its own weapon type. And although there may be some slight differences between the weapons themselves, every weapon type should play very similar, meaning that if you use a carbine, whether it's an M4 or an AK, it should be just about the same. Now, the weapon types are the following. First, you have your carbines and shorter barreled rifles, including the M4 and AK family. Next, you have full-length rifles, including the M16 and C7. Then you have battle rifles, which are the G3 and FAL. Next up are bullpups, which we only have 3 of, the L85, the QBZ95, and the EF88. There's also marksman rifles like the M110 and SVD, as well as snipers, including the SV98, C14 Timberwolf, and the Mosin Nagant. And then there are your squad support weapons like the automatic rifles, including the RPK, M249 SAW, and QJB95, as well as your machine guns, which include the M240, PKP, and MG3. Starting with the carbines, these rifles are going to be your good all-arounders. They have very friendly weapon handling stats, making it quick and easy to ADS, and are arguably your best fire and move rifles. If we were to compare the M4, which is a carbine, to the longer-barreled M16, which is classified as a full-length rifle, the M4 will be easier to handle if you are standing straight up and firing at the enemy, but the M16 actually has less sway and recoil when fired from a crouched or proned position. These aren't dramatic differences, but if you have the opportunity to use an M16 crouched, on average, you're probably going to be more accurate than if you were standing up straight, so do take that into consideration. With battle rifles, however, it's painfully obvious how different the recoil is. The G3 and FAL have some insane recoil when fired, especially in full auto, and I'd go as far as to say that you shouldn't use them in full auto unless you're bipoded and in short bursts, or at the very least, crouched and proned. In these stances, the weapon is much more stable when compared to standing upright, and they also have additional stability penalties if you're moving or stopping and quickly bringing up your sights to ADS. Now, there are benefits though, and these weapons do much more damage at range than carbines or other full-length rifles, meaning that you can more frequently two-shot kill someone. Now, when playing with these rifles myself, anytime I was caught kind of running around or sprinting, I usually got killed. But if I was trying to go slow, if I was just staying crouched, if I was kind of looking over an area and simply ADSing when I thought I saw movement, that was way much more effective for me. I wasn't as mobile as I wanted to be, but it made the whole game experience much more enjoyable, and that's kind of just what I have to do if I'm using this rifle. Once I accepted that, I had a lot more fun in game. There's also a flip side to it, and now when playing against these rifles, I actually tried to be a bit more mobile since I knew the enemy with a G3 would most likely try to sit still in order to hit accurate shots. This creates a really interesting dynamic now, and it adds a bit more thought when it comes to firefights, which I absolutely love. This is a perfect segue into bullpups, which are shorter, smaller weapons perfect for close quarters, hipfire, and firing on the move. When compared to your other rifles, bullpups will become stabilized much quicker, making accurate shots easier while moving, but they do have a bit more muzzle climb when it comes to recoil. They also do a little less damage, and more often than not, you will have to 3-shot the enemy to down them, which can be difficult at long range due to the recoil. Usually, I found myself trying to push in close to the enemy before opening fire, or trying to get into engagements where there would be buildings in order to create better situations for the weapon itself. Now, another support weapon is the marksman rifle, and marksman rifles have been overhauled to, well, I don't want to say they're useless in close quarters, but it is highly unlikely that you'll see a marksman pushing the objective like they have in the past. They have very slow ADS speeds and the tendency to lose stability very quickly while on the move. The best use for marksman rifles is strictly while bipoded in Overwatch or support positions for your squad. This is even more true for the sniper classes, which have even worse stability while on the move and when using them. And I'd only recommend running around with your pistol unless you found a position to bipod up on. Now, the last weapon types are automatic rifles and machine guns, and although they both offer plenty of suppression, there are some differences. Automatic rifles are much more stable and have less recoil when moving around, meaning that in a pinch, if you need to, you can help out in close quarters and fire and move. This is obviously more true for weapons like the RPK and the M27, but even the M249 SAW isn't horrible if you do run into an enemy right in front of you. The larger MGs, however, have some of the worst recoil in the game, and you will get both horizontal and vertical climb when hip firing or ADSing when you're not bipoded. The MG rounds, however, will do more suppression, and they have to reload less frequently than automatic rifles, so their mobility trade-off will at least allow you to keep the enemy's heads down more effectively. Now, when you take all of these weapon classes into consideration, I think with the current implementation of the Infantry Combat Overhaul, it all feels really good. I also think maybe not right away, but in a year or so, we may see factions that are playing a little bit differently as the player base gets adjusted and used to how these new weapons interact. I did notice that squads who played to their faction's strengths, as well as taking into consideration your suppression, your supporting vehicles, your mortars, all that good stuff, they definitely did better than squads who just tried to shift W and spam fobs. Over the 2 playtests, I used every weapon, I used every faction, I played on some small maps, some big maps, and I know weapon handling and recoil has been a big complaint in past playtests, but right now, I really think it's in a good spot. The last update reduced non-ADS recoil for almost every single rifle in game, making it much easier to move around and hipfire, and the big problem weapons like the G3, the FAL, and the SKS have actually had major tweaks in their handling as well. And as long as I wasn't sprinting around shift Wing, like I was saying earlier, I felt like I could handle the weapons and get myself into situations where I was actually having fun and hitting targets accurately. Now, there are also some updates to the playtest that I wasn't expecting, but it shows that the devs are really trying to make the final push, in my opinion, to finish the update and get it in a good spot so everything is relatively balanced. For example, the Mosin Nagant is actually now a one-shot kill under 400 meters. This is great for insurgents since they have an iron sight Mosin Nagant, and a lot of time the factions they're up against have vastly superior weapons and vastly superior optics. Giving them a one-shot kill for a slow-firing bolt action and iron sight rifle is a huge win. Additionally, MEA, which most people dislike, now actually get an extra grenade for almost every one of their kits in order to compensate for the massive recoil the G3 now has. Additionally, anti-tank users might be happy to learn that the MEA hat kits no longer have the incredibly hard to use HK51, but instead you'll be using the G3KA4, which is a G3 with a collapsible stock. These are really good ways in order to fix the factions and balance them in ways that make them unique to their own faction, but still fun to play. I really think the devs nailed it with both the Mosin changes and the MEA changes, and now they feel, well, okay, let's be honest, I still don't really like the G3, but it's at least playable and I can still have good games with it. Now, I'm not lying when I say that most of my complaints over the now 2 months of testing this update have been addressed. I've got to give the devs credit for that because the games I've had this past weekend and the one before have been really fun. If the Infantry Combat Overhaul were to be pushed to live to squad today, based on these last 2 playtests, and especially based on this past weekend, I think it would honestly be a slam dunk. I had fun, my squad mates were having fun, even when we were losing, we were having fun, and most importantly, this past weekend, I didn't have a single optimization issue. I didn't have any frame drops when ADSing, I didn't have any weird hitching when firing, and even problem maps like Anvil or Fallujah seemed to run pretty solid. This could be copium, this could just be placebo, but I didn't see anything that was noticeable, whereas the entire time I've been playing this ICO, I have always noticed these frame drops. If you have an issue with suppression or you dislike these picture-in-picture optics, that's one thing, but I'm telling you, this version of Squad feels good. I had a great time, and I honestly cannot wait till I can actually just play Squad, and this is what it looks like. But what do you guys think? Do these weapon classes seem like a good thing? Are they appropriate? Did you play the last couple playtests and enjoy it, or are there still a few things that you're concerned about? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. But that's it for me. Until next time, peace.
The middle of the street is most definitely not safe.